Hey guys, Tammy here, and in this video, I'm going to talk to you about understanding child custody laws. Now, obviously, if you're self-represented, this is critical because you're trying to learn the law and figure things out, right? And I'm not an attorney, but I was a paralegal for my late husband, Thomas, for 15 years. And so I do know how to do legal research. But even if you have an attorney, this can be critical because it can help you understand how to best leverage your attorney and give them the information that they need to be able to be successful in court in your case. Let me quickly remind you, if you like these videos, please hit like and also subscribe to the channel so you're notified when new videos are released. The first place that I usually like to start is online. And I talked about this in a recent podcast episode where findlaw.com is a good resource online that has all the different codes and relevant, statutes and code of civil procedure and all the different areas of law and the codes. But did you know that there is a law library? There are such things as law libraries. How we go to the regular library, there is also a law library in your area. Now, you may know this, but I honestly did not until I started dating Thomas, and he was like, "Oh, I'm going to go down to the law library and see if I can find this book." And I'm like, "The what?" I didn't know there was a library that was specific for law. I just thought that it was contained in the regular library. Anyway, I didn't know at that point that there was such a thing. So I always like to share this with clients because if you're like me and you were a layperson and you didn't go to law school, maybe you don't know this either. The nice thing about this is if you live in one state and your case is venued in a different state, law libraries have online databases and different resources where you can actually look up the law in the other state. Obviously, they have books and all those kinds of things too, but now a lot of the things are on databases online where you can do research on what the law is in other states. So that is the first piece to understand, is that laws are specific to each state. Every state has different laws. Although in child custody in particular, I find they have a lot of similarities state to state. And I find that judges and courts are generally looking at things in a similar way. It is helpful, though, to go out and research and understand exactly what the law is in your state or in the state where your case is venued. Now, it's also helpful to understand how the court is structured. And here in California, we have the Superior Court, which is kind of the basic court that hears all the family law motions, handles all the family law trials, and handles kind of that first line of defense of all of the issues in family law. And then we have Court of Appeals for, when somebody wants to appeal a decision or something of that nature. Now, not every state labels it that way. In some states, that's called the district court and then the circuit court. And, multiple districts can fall within a specific circuit and they're usually numbered. And so it's really important that you understand the structure of it and that you know which court your case is being heard in and how that structure all fits together so that you're following procedures. And I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. The thing to know is that one of the things that I find really helpful is if you Google Judicial Council, COUNCIL, for your state and put in your state name, that will bring up sort of what I guess I would describe as the administrative body for the law in your state. They are the people that sort of help to ensure the administration of justice, I guess, for all of us who are non-lawyers. And so they're really sort of the administrative backbone of the courts. So in California, again, for example, we have forms for a lot of our filings and motions and different things. In some states, they don't use as many forms, and the attorneys have to actually draft the pleadings. And Thomas used to tell me back in the day, before there were all these forms and everything, the attorneys had to know what information went into these forms, and they had to draft the forms essentially themselves to accomplish filing whatever they were trying to file. But a lot of states have forms now, and a lot of times those forms are put together by the Judicial Council. So you can find a lot of self-help information on being able to navigate your state's procedures and laws by Googling Judicial Council. Now, here's the next step down on it. Each county then in your state is going to have different local procedures. So you're going to have the statewide procedures and processes that govern a lot of it, but then you're also going to have local jurisdictions that govern a lot of the little procedures and things. So the statewide is the law part. The law is the same across the state, but how you accomplish a filing sometimes will be a local procedure, or maybe there's a statewide procedure on how to file, but then the local court says, oh, we also have to have this form with it, or we have to have this extra little thing when you file this. One of the things that varies a lot jurisdiction to jurisdiction is ex parte hearings. So emergency hearings, when you file an ex parte, I find that every county has a different way of accomplishing that. Some counties you have to file the paper. In San Diego, we file the paperwork and then the hearing gets set. We have to file the paperwork by a certain time of day. We have to notify the other party by a certain time of day, and then the hearing just gets set. In some jurisdictions, you have to call it in. We used to have to do that before COVID. We used to have to call it in San Diego and say, hey, can I get a hearing for the next day? And then they would say yes or no, or your judge isn't available or whatever. And then they'd say, okay, you have until this time to file your paperwork. And some jurisdictions, you just file the paperwork and then the judge decides, and they don't even, if they want to hear from you, they call you, and you don't even appear always. So every county in your state is going to be different for these types of little procedures. And again, if you are self-represented, then really this is the stuff that you need to learn and to know, because you've got deadlines, you've got timelines. When motions start getting filed in the court, you're on the court's timeline of when and how you should do certain things. And if you don't do that, it can affect your case, or it can result in something you submitting not being considered by the court or something like that. Now, if you do have an attorney and you go out and you start to look things up, you will suddenly start to understand why attorneys are so expensive, because this is the challenge for the attorney. And this is why attorneys tend to practice only local to their area. Now, again, I think COVID has opened up a lot of options for attorneys. I know here in California, a lot of people that used to only be in San Diego because they can appear remotely will now do, the 3 or 4 surrounding counties and kind of have a wider spread of what they're doing. But still, they have to learn the procedures in those other counties to make sure that they're following the correct procedure, even though they already know the law in California and the law is the same. And this is why attorneys are licensed by state, because once you're licensed in the state, the law in that state is the same across the state, but the procedures of how filings are done and processed and all that kind of paperwork aspect of it can be different depending on the county that you're in. I think that it's really helpful when you can start to understand this structure and you can go out and just learn where to find the information. A great place for local procedures, I gave you the Judicial Council thing for the state stuff, and also the law library. And the law library will have the local procedures for each of the courts too. But a lot of times on the local court's website, so on your county court's website, you'll find those procedures and you'll be able to figure out by reading those. And remember, there's procedures for all areas of law, not just family. So you have to drill down till you get to family, and then you can search. So if you want to file an ex parte hearing, you go to your local county's website, go into their rules of court is what it's labeled usually for the procedures. And you open that up, and then you drill down to family, and then you could search for ex parte, and then it will take you down to the procedures of how do you file an ex parte? What phone number do you call? When do you have to give notice by? What forms do you have to file? What do you have to file it by? Is there a filing fee? All these different things will be in the rules of court. So I hope that is helpful to you. If you'd like to learn more about my coaching services, please go to divorceuniversityonline.com/VIP-coaching. You can use the link on that page to book a free strategy session, and I'd love to chat with you. See you soon.
We'll grow in number, fueled by them to see the horizon, turn us to thousands.